Welcome to RC Pylon TV. I'm Don Stigall, and this video is about an airplane by the World Models called the P-51D Strega 40. It comes in 4 color schemes: a scale scheme like the full-scale Strega, a solid yellow, a solid red, and a solid white. This airplane was designed partially by Richard Verano of NMPRA and AMA Hall of Fame, and I even had a little bit of input on it. When they came out with the Spitfire 40 for Warbird Racing, it had open bay wings on it. And when I heard about and saw the prototypes for this airplane, I said it needed to have sheeted wings because P-51s have fully sheeted wings. So I have to disclose, I have a working relationship with Airborne Models, the World Models, and the Wings Maker. When Club 40 was started back in 2004, 2005, 2006, I worked with Phi Chan at Airborne Models to bring the solid white and solid yellow Skyraider Mach 2 to market. These proved to be very popular with the guys who were racing Club 40 because they could easily decorate the planes. They had pre-slotted CA hinges. At the time, a lot of the World Models airplanes had pre-hinged control surfaces. A lot of the airplanes still do, especially the bigger ones and the ones meant for minimal customization. This airplane has CA hinges on it. When I got the 4 colors, I started thinking about what I was going to do with it. So I worked with Dennis Kirby at Kirby's Custom Vinyl Graphics. First, I did a color scheme for the solid red Strega. It has gold trim on it. It has checkerboards in gold and gold wingtips and a gold stabilizer and stripes for the fuselage in gold. And it also has big gold checks on the bottom. I haven't put that plane together yet. On the yellow plane, I did blue and white checkerboard with sky blue outboard, and I had sky blue and navy blue stripes done for the fuselage. On the design for the scale color scheme, I had Dennis use the curved checkerboards that I had used on the white Spitfire. I've done a video on it, and I need to finish that video, but there's an unedited version of me applying the vinyl on it. Those decals went to someone else recently, and we may see a picture of his plane with those decals on it. I'll be interested in seeing if my idea worked. When it came to the white airplane, I didn't quite know what to do because everything's wide open on a white airplane. But I had become a fan of the stiletto and color tile airplane. Stiletto became color tile, and a lot of people like the stiletto for racing purposes because it doesn't have a belly pan. This plane has a belly pan on it, and it starts up under the wing and goes back to about here. And it's held on with a screw or 2 screws, I'm not sure which. Anyway, I decided to do this as color tile. I found out that Cali Graphics already had the color tile graphics and could scale them to whatever I wanted. So I measured the fuselage and compared it to a picture of the full scale color tile and had her do the fuselage vinyl. And this is the actual vinyl for the fuselage. I had her do the wing graphics, possibly not as big as scale, but I wanted room on the tip for my 7Q NMPRA number and on the right wingtip for my RC Pro AMA number. And these are the 7Qs. Callie actually sent me the graphics for a wide format tabloid size printer that I happen to have one of. And I printed out the graphics so I could see if they were the right size. That's how I found out that my fuselage graphic wasn't quite long enough as compared to the scale one. It's easier to do these kit piece videos starting with the airplane assembled. But before I disassemble the airplane, I'm going to put the color tile printouts I have on it and show it to you. Before I do that, I'm going to let you see a couple of angles without the decals on it so you know what it looks like to start with. It's a very, very nice looking airplane. It has electric retracts on it. The electric retracts are great. However, they have a limitation. You cannot use them with a 2-cell LiPo battery unless you're using a regulator going to your receiver. Otherwise, you may burn up the retracts. They work fine with life batteries and 5-cell nickel metal hydride or 5-cell NiCad battery packs. So it appears to be that they just don't like to go over 7 volts. So be aware of that if you're planning on using LiPo to power your system. That means that you, unless you're going to buy 2 regulators, you can't run your servo system as a high voltage system. So I'm going to put the color tile printouts on it and let you see it, and then I'm going to take it apart. I've got my printouts of color tile applied to the airplane, and you can already see it's better looking than a plain white airplane, at least in my opinion. I actually have checkerboards for the bottom of the wing, and notice that the belly pan is not on here. This is where I have to make the fairing. And like I said, I didn't make the color tile on the wing quite as big. I left room for my RC Pro number out to the right. I'm going to use a small one so it doesn't detract from the color scheme. But even without an 84 on the tail, it's looking pretty cool, at least to me. So much so that I'm doing a giant scale P-51 as color tile. When I first saw the white airplane in the Strega, it's got a relatively thick stabilizer. I thought about stripping the whole airplane, shaping the stabilizer, shaping the fin. It's got a tapered rudder and it's got a taper at the back of the elevators, but it's not the way I would do it if I was building an airplane from scratch. I started thinking, and better judgment got the better of me. I don't need to strip the airplane, shape the surfaces, cut off the stab tips, add new scale wing tips. I can just put it together the way it is. Plenty of people are flying this airplane with the stock completely in Warbird Racing, like at the Warbird Nats, and doing just fine with it. One thing I haven't mentioned is the StegallHobbies.com epoxy fillers. They're usually going to show up in many of my videos because I'm selling them on Amazon, and a lot of people are discovering Cabosil and microfibers and the different things you can do with epoxy fillers, and I'm going to do some complete videos on that. But right now what I'm going to do is take this apart so you can see what it looks like. This is the belly pan, and as I couldn't remember earlier, it has one screw that holds it in the back, and it has 2 pegs that plug in after you've bolted the wing on. I had the wing just taped on, and without the belly pan it'll come off quite easily. There's some interesting stuff about the wing mounting on this plane, because even though it says Strega 40, it was designed for larger engines like the YS-115 WS Warbird Special. I actually have 3 engines I'm putting in Warbirds. That's the YS-115 FZWS and OS-95AX with a jet tuned muffler. And I also have an interesting engine, which is an Evolution 15 GX2 gasoline engine, and the jet mufflers just happen to fit it as well. So I'll find out if tuned mufflers work with CDI, and that'll be an interesting thing. I won't put that in a camouflage Spitfire. It'll be my bronze or silver airplane. I don't know how well a 91 is going to do against a regular glow engine, but it'll be economical to fly. One thing that was done with this airplane is it has the typical World Models nub at the front of the wing that holds the wing on. However, if you look in the fuselage, it has bolt holes at the front and at the rear. That's to make sure this wing doesn't come off. These plywood pieces go all the way to the rear of the wing, and they aren't going to come off. But when you're racing relatively heavy airplanes at 160 plus miles an hour in the gold class, you don't want things coming apart. On the wing, you see the retract leads coming out, and there's a hole for the aileron servos. One of the nice things about this airplane versus the P-51 Mustang 46 that the World Models had is that it has scale ailerons instead of the strip ailerons that were on the other plane. And it has the servo bays out here. So you have better control authority, plus it looks more scale. And with this fully sheeted wing, it's a very nice looking wing. The wing has a joiner that's plenty strong, and it has an alignment key so that you can't get the halves joined together improperly. There is a gap in the spar wing hole. If you just use plain epoxy, it's not thickened, and it's not a thickened epoxy, you run the risk of this wing coming apart. So you've got to make sure you glue the wing together well. I highly recommend microfibers that we sell and that you can also get from CST Sales. West System has microfibers. And if you use milled glass, you have to thicken it up with some Cabosil to make it into a paste that's non-sagging. But it makes joining the wing much easier. The rudder is typical construction for the World Models and for a lot of ARFs. It just fits in a slot, and the rudder post fits in the slot at the top of the fuselage. The stabilizer is a tight fit, and that's a good thing. You can see the stabilizer is nice and beefy. The rudder is plenty thick. Don't know if you can see the difference in the two, but this is a solid stabilizer And even though this airplane says that it's a 40 size airplane, if you put a 40 or 46 engine, it's going to require quite a bit of weight up front. I recommend at least a 61 two-stroke or a 75 or a 90, or you can go even bigger than that. And the way that airplane is set up for balance, it's set up perfectly for the YS-115WZ, which weighs in at about 24 ounces. The cowl is a typical cowl. They already have the bolt holes in it. One thing you may want to consider doing is putting the cowl on with button head socket screws with blind nuts behind it, so that when you take the cowl on and off, it doesn't wear on it, because at the speeds these airplanes can go, it can cause your cowl to come off. That would be relatively catastrophic. It'd at least be spectacular. The spinner, I'm not even going to take the spinner off, but let me say this about the spinner. If you're putting an engine bigger than a 61 two-stroke or an 80 or so four-stroke on this airplane, use an aluminum spinner, at least an aluminum back spinner, and not the plastic spinner that comes with it. This plastic spinner would probably hold up, or this plastic spinner would hold up to a 46, but you start putting the kind of power that you can put on this airplane, you don't want a spinner flying off at you. So that's the kit, and I'll be doing a construction video later on when I actually start putting it together. It's going back in the box because I have a lot of other things at higher priority right now. And since Warbirds are not being flown at the AMA Nats, Pylon Nats in 2018, I don't have to get it ready for that. I'm going to be working on a Spitfire and finishing the vinyl on it, and I'm doing a video series on that. So the Strega is a fine airplane. StigallHobbies.com currently has the scale color scheme and the white scheme on Amazon. We'll soon have the yellow and red scheme as well. And they'll also be on the Airborne Model Showcase. The Strega 40 comes with a very complete hardware pack. It's got a tank. It's got the covers for the wing servos with posts pre-mounted on them, so you don't even have to glue the post to the servo hatch. It's got a mount. It's a nylon mount, but it'll hold up just fine. I recommend threading the mount for 10-24 socket head screws and then putting locking nuts on the back side. You can also use the bore through technique, but I found that having threads on the mount plus lock nuts on the back gives you an extra level of protection. I'm not going to get out all the hardware. It has all the control horns you need. It comes with all the push rods you need. I will say that because I've been modeling for so long, since the 60s, I prefer American hardware. So when I build mine, I'll probably change out the control horns and the push rods to American hardware. That's just my preference. This hardware is just fine. Plenty of people are using the hardware just as it is. I do have one recommendation. It comes with the Y harness. I don't recommend using this Y harness. I recommend buying a premium wire harness because a couple people have reported retract failures and it turned out to be the Y cable. On the tank will do fine for a two-stroke or a non-pressurized muffler pressure only system. If you're using the YS-115 or any of its close relatives like the YS-90 or the YS-110 that use pressurized systems, I recommend using a Dubro tank. Richard Verano told me about that, and what he does is on the gap where the tank fits, he puts 1/32 or 1/64 plywood so that it doesn't wear through the tank. When I get it listed on Airborne Models Showcase, I'll have a tips section, and there will be the build videos, so you'll figure out all the things that you need to know to maximize your potential of the airplane. I maintain the Airborne Models Showcase website, and as soon as I get pictures of the red and yellow Stregas, I'll get the Strega listed on there. I may go ahead and get it listed with just the scale and the white color schemes and use the factory art until I can get pictures of the yellow and red. I sold the yellow and red ones that I had because people wanted them, and since I couldn't make it to the Nats in 2017, it was okay for me to let them go until I feel like replacing them, but I still have all the decaling that I had done ready for those airplanes. So thanks for watching. If you want to go fast, even if it's just for fun, the Strega 40 is an extremely nice airplane. It's very, very well built. It's built to handle the rigors of racing, so it's built to handle the rigors of everyday flying. It'd make a great club airplane. If you use a YS-115 FZWS, it comes with an open header. A lot of clubs have sound limitations, but you can put a muffler on that engine, or you can use something like a Sato 120. That would probably be a fine engine for this airplane if you want to go pretty fast. You could go down to a Sato 80 if you're going to fly it in the bronze class. I think below an 80 would require a lot of weight in the nose though. I've enjoyed working with Phi at Airborne Models, and as I said, I have a working relationship with them, and StegallHobbies.com is a dealer for all of the world models and the Wings Makers products. So if there's anything you need, send me an email or send us an email, and we'll get you set up with the planes that you want. Thanks for watching. Hope you'll stay tuned. Please subscribe to RC Pylon TV.